Good morning. On Monday, we heard the tragic news that 52-year-old Luke Perry passed away after suffering a massive stroke. Now, whether or not you are a fan of Luke Perry is irrelevant. But all you really need to know is 52, massive stroke, dead. Now, if you look at Luke Perry, this is a man who did not take his health lightly. In 2017, he came out publicly and said that thank God that when he turned 50, he did exactly what his doctors told him to do. At age 50, they said colonoscopy time. He did a colonoscopy and they removed a couple of precancerous tumors from his colon. They saved his life. And he started coming out publicly saying, get your colonoscopy when you turn 50. It can save your life. So this was not someone who was overweight. There were no reports of excessive drinking or any kind of lifestyle issues. He seemed to take his health very seriously and encouraged others to do the same. And yet, at 52 years old, one day, last Tuesday, he's at work, he's fine, he's healthy. Wednesday, he suffers a massive stroke, and Monday, he's dead. How can this happen? How can this happen to a celebrity with money, probably with good health insurance, who did seem to be taking an active role in his health care, getting his annual checkups? Well, that's kind of the question of today's show. And it's something that affects all of you, whatever your age, whatever you look like, however you think you live your life. You eat right, you don't smoke, you don't drink. You're so healthy according to your annual checkup. The question today is, what does the annual checkup actually do? I'll tell you what it does. Nothing. It doesn't guarantee that you're not going to drop dead from a heart attack. It doesn't guarantee that you're not going to have a stroke. And believe it or not, your annual checkup, depending who you are and what medical provider you go to, doesn't even test you or screen you for cancers that you may be prevalent for, that you might be at risk for. My husband had an annual checkup in December. It was a joke, which is why he's now with another doctor. Because at my husband's annual checkup, he didn't get an annual checkup. He had some blood work done in advance. The doctor coded that bill wrong, meaning we had out-of-pocket expenses for it. I'm going to do a whole show about this story once the appeal that I'm filing against the billing is completed. But at the end of the day, he had very minimal blood work done. And when he went to actually talk to his doctor, remember the Affordable Care Act that was starting to say, we want you to go and see your doctor once a year and get your checkup and know you're healthy and be able to talk to your doctor? The Affordable Care Act, nowhere in the Affordable Care Act does it say you only have 10 to 15 minutes to talk to your doctor. Nowhere does it say that, but the doctors now have put a time limit. The doctor my husband went to is owned by a corporation, UPMC Pinnacle. I will tell you that out loud. Because before UPMC Pinnacle owned this doctor's practice, my husband went for a checkup and he had a great checkup. Very thorough. Lots of questions. Took like 45 minutes. It was covered. This checkup, well, no, see, after 15 minutes, it went over by 5 minutes. All of a sudden, the insurance company's getting billed an extra $146. $380 is what the doctor billed the insurance company for taking my husband's blood pressure, listening to his heart, looking down his throat, checking his glands. That's it. And then he went over very minimal blood work. Just one thing. He only hit on one thing in the blood work. That was it. And then he wrote him a prescription and said, take the prescription and in 3 months come back and we'll see if the, prescription's damaging your kidneys or your liver, all that kind of stuff when you get a prescription. That was it. My husband did not get a prostate exam, even though he's over 40. He did not get any cancer screening whatsoever. And basically, the only reason that the bill was so high was because it went 5 minutes over the 15 minutes the corporation has told their doctors they are allowed to spend with their patients once a year. Now, do you see those public service announcements on TV? Go, no, it can save your life. Go for your annual checkup. Have notes that you want to discuss with the doctor, any changes in your body, any issues you're having, including if you're depressed or something's going on or there's a lump you want looked at. Well, see, these corporate-owned doctors, they don't let you do that. You have 15 minutes, which includes the standard, test the reflexes, listen to the heart, all that crap. Oh, and then the doctor wasted like maybe 4 minutes telling my husband, well, next year you're going to be 50, so you're going to need a colonoscopy. That wasted my husband's time. But see, at the time, my husband didn't know he was on the clock. Because when he scheduled the appointment in November, he said, I want what's covered for an annual physical. What's covered? That was the code. That was our code for Affordable Care Act annual exam. Nobody told him, well, that means you've got 15 minutes. If you have anything to say to the doctor, you better get it out there. Or just give him the Cliff Notes. This kind of crap that corporate owners of medical providers are putting on the doctors, forcing them to cut their patients short, not listen to their patients, is the reason why we have these issues with people dropping dead from strokes, people getting cancers they're not screened for. There's just no time. Because we got to see as many patients as we can in one day, or the corporate bosses are going to be pissed at us. We could lose our jobs, or we won't get our bonus at the end of the year. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Let's talk about what any annual physical screens for, because we all fear the big C, right? It's always cancer. Oh my God, cancer, the worst thing that can happen to you. I'm here to tell you, cancer is not the worst thing that can happen to you. And I mean no offense to anyone out there who is battling cancer right now, or who has battled cancer and done the suffering through the chemo and the radiation and the crap that goes with that. No offense, but there are things worse than cancer. Do you know that 1 in 5 women will get Alzheimer's? Now, Alzheimer's, I believe, is worse than cancer. I do. Because with Alzheimer's, you forget everything and everyone you have ever known. But you're still alive. You're still breathing. You just don't know who your husband is, who your children are. You don't recognize your own home. You go off wandering because you don't know where you are. That, to me, is worse than cancer. And yet there are no screenings for brain health. No preventive screenings. Nobody at an annual physical has ever asked me, have you been forgetting things recently? How's your brain health? There are ways you can test for your brain health, but they don't do it. I believe that an annual exam should include a chest x-ray for everybody. Not just smokers, not just people with COPD or some sort of lung issues. Everyone should get a chest x-ray. Maybe not once a year, but at least every 3 years. Because that can show blockage. It can show masses that you're not having symptoms of. And if you catch things early, they can be cured. Not maintained, cured. But see, there again is the problem. It's this issue about a cured patient is not a repeat customer. Most of my preventive physicals always are just about cancer, the pap smear, the mammogram. I am never asked, do you get headaches? I'm never asked, have you become forgetful? I'm not asked, do you have numbness in your legs or feet or in your hands? Which, by the way, occasionally I do. I'm never asked about my gut health. Do you have diarrhea often? Do you have cramping when you eat certain foods? Never are these questions asked of me during a physical, and yet they should be. But see, like I said, they don't have the time. They don't have the time to go over you from head to toe during your once a year annual physical. They don't have time to ask about your mental health. Do you get depressed? Do you feel lonely? Do you ever have suicidal thoughts? These are questions that should come up when you see your doctor once a year, but they don't. And they certainly don't test or ask questions that would tell them your risk for a stroke. And we now know that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter your lifestyle. You can have a massive stroke and die. Because Luke Perry just did that. And it really makes me angry. It makes me angry that I thought the Affordable Care Act was the greatest thing since sliced bread until I broke it down. All the Affordable Care Act says is that the insurance has to pay for a very minimal annual exam, and any extra bells and whistles you have to pay out of pocket for, and the doctor decides what are extra bells and whistles depending on which corporate puppet master is pulling their strings. And then most of the annual screenings are for just cancer, nothing else. I go to the OBGYN, he does the pap smear, he feels my breasts, everything looks good. I'm supposed to walk out of there feeling like I'm completely healthy. Well, no, see, not true. Because he didn't do a chest x-ray, he didn't ask me about my mental health, he didn't ask me about my gut health, my bowel movements, my food issues. He didn't ask me anything like that. It was just, see if you don't have cervical cancer and I don't feel any lumps in your ovaries and your uterus, according to me, you're healthy. Insurance pays for it. Go with God. Have a nice year. No blood work. Now, the OBGYN will do a lipid test for cholesterol, but that's the only thing he will do. He won't do diabetes test. Do you know most people that are diagnosed with diabetes have no symptoms? Many even don't have any family history. People are diagnosed with diabetes of all weight, all shapes, all sizes, all ethnicities. But if you don't present as at risk, you either have to be obese and have high blood pressure, you don't get the A1C hemoglobin blood test. If you ask for it because you kind of want to know, it's kind of important, it's kind of one of those important tests, you got to pay for it out of your pocket. Unless you are already at high risk for diabetes. And who decides that? The doctor, whose strings are being pulled by the corporate puppet master. Overcode, overbill, and spend as little time with your patient as possible in order to see more patients in an 8 to 10 hour period. And we wonder why more young people are dropping dead, why more people are being diagnosed with cancers they've never been screened for because there are no screenings, like pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, huge right now. So many people getting brain tumors. You're not scanned for it. You find it early, they can get rid of it. Most people don't get diagnosed with these cancers until they already have symptoms, at which time it's too late. If you're having symptoms of a stroke, it's too late. Now, there are ways to screen for your risk of stroke, but insurance won't cover that. Just like insurance won't cover the treatment for the cancers after they pay for the preventive test to screen for the cancer. They'll pay for the screening. Once you're diagnosed, you're on your own. And we know how expensive these screenings, these tests, the treatment for these diseases are. Believe it or not, the screenings are actually cheap. I was uninsured for 2 years because I was protesting the high deductibles and high premiums I was being charged, only because I was a smoker, not because I had any health issues. Never had a claim for an ill visit in 30 years. Never been to the doctor because I was sick. Never been to the ER. No chronic illness in my house that I've been diagnosed with by a doctor. But they overcharged me, so I said, fuck it, I'm not going to have insurance. So I called the OBGYN. How much is a pap smear if I pay out of pocket, no insurance? $200. Wow. That's cheaper than 1 month of the premiums that Capital Blue Cross was going to charge me at $750 a month. Wow, okay. Called the mammogram place. How much is a mammogram? No insurance. I think it was $175 to $200. So $400 to get my mammogram and my pap smear. That's less than 1 month's premium that Capital Blue Cross was going to charge me for health insurance. And I can afford that. Here's what I can't afford, is if I get a false positive, which happens, and I got to pay for proving the false positive is actually a negative. Or if I get a false negative and I end up finding a lump in my breast a week later. So they'll pay for what is relatively cheap, the preventive testing. What they won't pay for is the treatment, which, as we know, because of the farm drugs in this country, these corporate big pharma, charging $6,000 a month for cancer treatments. That's what we can't afford. That's what insurance should have to cover. But the Affordable Care Act just didn't go that far, because that would have been too much like socialized medicine, like they have in all other countries in the world, and their citizens, for the most part, love it. They can't believe what Americans pay for healthcare in our country, for prescription drugs in our country. And yet, for some reason, the Europeans that have this national health care, the Canadians, they're living large. They're not as sick as Americans are. Some people say Americans are sicker because of our lifestyle. Then how do you explain Luke Perry? How do you explain someone who did everything right, was up to date with all his checkups, his preventive care, and still died from a massive stroke? How do you explain any of it? I certainly can't, except for the fact that where we see more and more corporations buying medical practices, buying hospitals, we see the level and the quality of care decreasing. Everybody's overbooked. You go in to get a mammogram, you could be there for 2 hours, even when you ask for first appointment of the day. Why? Because they overbook. Because they're being told by their corporate owners, you need to see all these different people. If they have to wait, so what? Let them wait. I mean, after all, we're just the client, right? What do they care if we sit there or we're 2 hours late for work because one of their machines broke, or they have 6 people scheduled, they have 2 machines for the same time slot? Who cares? And guess what? We can overbill. Most people are too stupid to even read their medical bills. They get a bill, they just pay it. They're not going to notice. See, I noticed. I noticed when our bill was wrong, when it was wrongly coded and overbilled. That's why I'm appealing it. And I will give you the result of that appeal when I receive it. I'm still waiting. They told me 30 days, so I've got another maybe 2 weeks before I start making more phone calls. You have to be vigilant. And also, you have to take charge of your life. And sometimes, unfortunately, it may cost you extra money. But if you're concerned for your own health, if you're concerned that your annual physical wasn't thorough enough or didn't address concerns that you actually have because you didn't have time because the doctor's like, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. I don't have time for this. Yeah, your blood pressure's good, your weight's good, your height's good. Oh yeah, this is a little off. Here's a prescription. I'll see you in a couple months. We'll check the liver function and all that crap. Just get out of my sight. I have other patients to see. I've got a quota to meet. If that's the way you're being treated by your doctor, you need to find a new doctor, and then you need to make it clear that you are not a number. You are not patient 00465. You're a human being. And you want this annual physical to be important because it's important to you. You took the time. You fasted for the blood work. You scheduled the appointment. You maybe took off work to go to the appointment. Well, doc, now you're on my time. And the Affordable Care Act says I get you once a year for an annual physical. And that doesn't mean just listening to my heart, letting me say checking my glands, and saying, oh, next year you need a colonoscopy. Have a good year. See you later. Now get out of my office. I've got other people to see. No. We need to stand up to these doctors and say, wait a minute. First of all, you're going to code this as the annual physical it is under the Affordable Care Act. And second of all, I've got some questions for you that you're going to answer. And I don't care if it takes 10 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes. This is my time. This is the one time a year I get you fascia e fascia. And I know after I walk out of this office, if I have a question and I call, it's going to take 2 weeks for someone in your office to call me back. That's the way corporate owned medical practices work now. They don't call you back. They only want to talk to you when you're paying, when the meter's running. Well, sorry. You turn the meter off. I pay for health insurance. And I'm here right now. This is my time. And you're going to talk to me about me. You're not going to do this cookie cutter exam that you give everybody who walks in here, regardless of their age, their gender, or their past health issues. You are going to treat me like the individual I am, and you're going to answer my concerns. If that's a problem for you, then you let me know before the meter starts running so that I can walk out and find a doctor who actually cares more about me than about his daily quota. Political Paula, out. Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to say that I was a fan of Luke Perry back in the 90210 days, and I do want to send my heartfelt condolences to his children. Oh my God, those poor children. I know what it's like to lose your parents suddenly. Sophie and Jack, I know. My mother died very suddenly as well. It's a horrible thing to go through. But your daddy loved you, and you loved him, and he knew it. So rest in peace, Luke Perry, and I hope that your death actually, like your life, we heard he did so many good things. I hope that your death wakes people up, both the patients and the medical providers, that we have to do more during our physical exams, during our cancer screenings even. We have to give more preventive screenings for things that are actually killing more people than cancer. And especially things like stroke that are killing young people, young, healthy people, who we would never expect to lose so soon. Now, Political Paula is out.